Hi, John.
How are you?
So we are, I don't know, were you able to get that hookup I sent this morning?
I took a quick look at it. I haven't looked at it in depth yet.
Okay. Are you able to look at the light plot that's on Moodle at the same time you can look at the hookup?
Should be able to.
Okay.
Yeah, and all the ones we did, they're all right.
Oh, KJ, you need one of these
But all of them are
light plots in front of you as well.
great. Is the next one, or are we doing all of
You
them?
can have your own, and we figure out a way to
Okay. Maybe
Yes.
some little tables. Hi.
You know what I mean? That much easier to down.
Now, okay, great.
What? That's in that case. Yes,
No, it's just to give you guys ample time. And, yeah. You don't have to use that. If the time is open, I can sit.
It's super, I want to get rid of that for like 10 years. It's really crap.
She's gonna try to open it.
Yeah, that's why I was like.
I think I did open it, but I had to reset it.
right.
Is it same little less of a threat?
That was the power, wow.
I mean, I think
It
it's
was,
something
I
that
watched it.
it should but I'm not sure I already the PDF on
So my cats are.
Just an hour. I don't know.
Oh, I found it.
Yeah.
Shed.
Here you go. Yeah, it's definitely, there's a PDF of it there, which will be easier to look now.
Yeah. Okay, that's something about it.
John, I'm going to review the syllabus. I didn't print, I just finished updating it, so I haven't sent it to you yet.
Okay.
So, as you all know, I've gotten very confused and made you all very confused about what's coming up. So I've printed out the remaining classes, it's the end of the syllabus. And if you do not understand, or I do not understand when we go through this, please let me know. And there are some changes on here as well. Okay, so we are here today. We are going to talk about assigning channels, reviewing light plots and hookups, and talking about going from concept to light plot. The assignment for next week is the Light Lab assignment for the dance students. And for everybody, you should have your final concepts for your show. You should have already been done with your organizational chart and your research. Does everybody finish that? Finish their research for the piece? You didn't convince me at all, really.
Huh?
You didn't convince me at all.
Well, no, sometimes I get inspired like the day before I
Okay.
do Tuesday.
So this stuff's not due, as I've said many times, but I urge you not to get behind because the hard part's coming up, making up the light plot. So going back to the syllabus. So for everybody, dance and theater students, final concepts for your piece or your play are due next week. You are not turning that in as just part of your final project. Dance students, your light lab assignment is due next week, and we are all going to squeeze into the light lab to look at the dance students' light lab project next week, and then we will continue class in the lobby. All right, the week after that, there's nothing due, but you should still be working on your final projects. We will talk about cueing, focusing. We will continue the discussion of how to make light plots and hookups. Basically, from here on in, it's about how you turn your ideas into a light plot, which is what this class is really about. And that's going to take many classes. And the whole point of it is for you guys to keep asking questions over and over again. And we'll try to figure out together how we can come up with a plot that gets the looks that you want. Okay, April 26th, this is a change. Theater students are excused, except Katie. You have to meet with the dance students since you're working on the dance concert. So that's opening night for the play. So the theater students are excused because you would have come through a hellish week. Dance students, your light plot and your hookup or your hookup are due on the 26th
Of April?
of April. That's 3 weeks from now.
A light plot and hookup are due.
Right. Or, yeah, in your case, it's just a hookup. I'm not requiring everybody to do both. I'm going to try to show you all how to make hookups on. I don't imagine you had times in Vectorworks class to learn how to make hookups from light plots. And you can't use Danielle's because she has an expensive program that none of the rest of us have.
It goes, there's a certain amount of cues it does for free.
On Lightright?
Yeah, like 100 maybe.
100 what?
100 circuits. Yeah, I think you can put in 100 instruments for free.
Great, that's half of our light plot. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to help very much. All right. Then MFA students, please note, you will need to sign up to work 10 hours out of the times that are listed here.
Listed where?
They're listed on the syllabus.
Oh.
I'm going to have to do that with you. We'll do it. Give it some thought, and maybe we can do it next week. You can't all come at the same time. We only want 2 students at a time so that we can work effectively. All right.
I don't understand, can you go over that again? What do you? Okay, so in the middle of the syllabus, there's a times on the left-hand side. Yeah. So next week, come in with your availability. Or you'll have to do this kind of April 29th. Yeah. You have to do 10 of those. 10 hours. Yeah. A lot of hours.
Yep. And that's why you're being released from class the week after. So you do not need to attend class on May 3rd, dance students. For theater students, your light plot and hookup is due on May 3rd. On May 10th, we'll all meet together and you will present your oral presentations to the class and turn in your written presentations. That's for the dance students. I'm making you first. And there's also a cueing project, which we won't talk about till next week anyway. And then the final class, the same thing for the theater students in here. So is everybody really clear on this? Maybe you could sit with Elizabeth, Ginny. Everybody clear? No
So
question?
the week of April 29th through May 10th.
Now, that little section in the middle is just the times you can sign up.
I don't have time available to do. I'll just talk to you later.
Well, this has been on here since the first day of class.
Do I have to pay for a babysitter?
All right, we'll talk about it. You're not coming to all of these times. KJ will do everything possible to make it work for you. So is everybody else clear on the assignments that are due and when, who's meeting when? You guys have already all signed up for crew calls, which start on tomorrow. Katie, you're starting tomorrow.
So those count for our 10 hours?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So you guys all need a copy of what that was.
So Professor, will we can have them will we need to do directions that we will go each one of these?
Yeah, you'll be adding on to this document. And we're going to be going over and over it for the next 3 weeks. I know it seems outrageously complicated.
It's Friday. My senior project. Shield. Look at all the Thank you. So it's not long, so we have to wait. That's what it says.
Will you guys let me know if you have problems opening that at Vectorworks? Because
Oh, I did.
you were able to open it?
No, I had problems. I took. No, I know.
Right, but you're to do your assignment, you need it. I have one that opens on my computer, so I will.
Yeah, it's like it has an error.
I will try to send you the one I have. Because I had one that worked and one that didn't work.
No, latest thing next week. I mean, it's.
And then you try to like.
Okay, everybody. So everybody's completed their research and their organizational charge, and everybody's concept is due next week. I do not want you to sweat the concept. That's not the big purpose of this class. You have to have a concept to design a show, but I don't want you to, bat your brains out trying to come up with the most concept in the whole world. You have to have a concept for the piece that works.
Are we like planning for those concepts next week? Okay.
Well, no, not necessarily, but if people are having problems with them, I'd like people to talk about it.
Got it.
So concepts can be either a written concept or a visual concept. Some of them can be long, can be paragraphs long, others can be one sentence. I am all for the simpler concept, and the concept is really just to guide you in your overall lighting design. When you actually see your final lighting design on stage, you'll probably, can you guys stop talking? When you actually see your final lighting design on stage, you'll probably, can you guys stop talking? 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 Can you guys stop you'll probably won't even be able to look at your lighting design and go, what does that have to do with my concept? But it does, but that it develops over time, and it's the thing that will hold your piece together. And I think most lighting teachers and designers approach pieces from doing a lighting design, or as it's called in the theater many times, a hook. But I think for those of you who've done dramaturgy and other design classes, I think you know what a hook is or a design concept. Let me give you an example of a really simple one. We did a play 4 years ago called "And When We Awoke, There Was Light and Light." And my concept for the show was, and when we awoke, there was light and light. You can't come up with a better concept than that for a lighting designer. And I mean, one of the things that manifested on stage is it got brighter. At the very end of the show, all these trees upstage lit up with 2,000 twinkle lights, hopefully not twinkling. But that was a great way to approach the play. And so that's what I'm looking at. A lot of times, I say most of the time I use a picture, and you use it as a jumping off point. But also, if you get lost on your way doing your design, it's something you can come back and refer to. So does everybody feel like they can do that fairly simply? I just don't want you to drive yourself crazy with it. But I don't want you to pick something that's completely arbitrary that you can't relate to your research and what the piece is about. But there are lots of different ways to design any play or dance piece. So do you guys feel pretty confident that you can do that? I'm always available to talk, and I'm happy to help you talk through it. Dance is more conceptual than theater. Before the theater students do concepts, you pretty much need to know what the play is about and what the theme of the play is. And going from theme to concept doesn't necessarily have to be that big a leap. I mean, the concept can be a visual version of the theme. If you are using visual imagery for concept, it does not mean you're taking a picture of a house that's got this lit a certain way and say, this is my concept. I want my piece to look like this. That is not a concept for a piece. That may be a light look that you want for one scene, but it's not about going around and looking for light looks. It's finding something that visually or in written form speaks to what the play is about, your interpretation of the play visually. Okay, so theater students, also we've talked about you, because you have no director and there's no set designer, you all have to create your own sets. That literally can be something like on the back of a napkin. I'm talking about a thumbnail sketch. Like for instance, sorry, this screen is so huge. And right in a place that you can see. So Sophia's doing the play, This Property is Condemned, by Tennessee Williams. And I might have this not exactly right. This is what we talked about. Okay, so that's the Lefevre stage. Her set consists of railroad tracks coming this way or maybe the other way, and a porch here. That's the entire set, and that's all I need to see from you, that kind of a floor plan. But you can't light a show unless you have a set. You may want to also try to do a picture of what it looks like from the front so we can kind of see where the walls are, like Here's where the porch is from the side. I can't draw. So maybe a little sketch like that so that we can see what the set looks like from the front. But that's as much as I need you to do. The dance students are free to do scenery if you want, but you don't have to. Okay, so I've ordered Roscoe swatch books for all of you, and they'll be here next week, which will make it a lot easier for you to pick colors. I know you'll be thinking about color right now, but don't focus down on it so much. It's almost the easiest part of it because it's the most fun part of it. I mean, it's complicated because there's so many choices, but I think it's more difficult for people in this class to think about lighting instruments and positions and focus. So think about those before you start thinking about color. And just one note, when you're looking at color, you do not take the swatch and hold it up and look at it from the light. You have to take some sort of something with a light source, usually a flashlight, and shine a light through the swatch onto something white to actually see what color it is. Okay, so today we're going to start talking about translating your ideas and concepts into an actual light plot. As I said, this is really the whole point of the class. So please stop me if you have questions and you don't understand. It's really complicated. I'm trying to focus less on the technical side and more on how do I turn my design, my vision into something that I want to see on stage. How do I go about doing that technically? If certain parts of that become too difficult for you, you may not have to do them. For instance, I think it may be for the theater students who haven't had lighting classes, I may not ask you to do all the circuiting because I think that's going to be very hard for you guys to understand, but you're more than welcome to do it. Lighting students, if you feel like you can do the circuiting, that's fine. But the thing is about circuiting, it doesn't really have that much to do with your lighting design. You have to, of course, take it into account because you need to have enough power to light the show the way you want. But it's purely a technical thing. So I will leave that up to you. Just challenge yourself. So we're going to look at a light plot and a hookup. So before we do that, I need to explain something about assigning channels. And in order to assign channels, I need to explain area lighting. So area lighting generally refers to dividing the stage up into a certain number of, in the theater we call them acting areas. In dance, they may also be called acting areas. They also divide the stage up into areas. But for theater students, we call them acting areas. And they generally follow the same configuration. Please note that people on the West Coast do these differently than people on the East Coast. So it's a very strange phenomenon. So this is the Lefevre stage. You guys can see it on your plot. So on the Lefevre stage, we divide it into 15 different acting areas. So it starts downstage gray. They're not written on here, but you're more than welcome. If you want to write on there in pencil, it may help you. So there are 5. So it's 1, 2, 3 is at center, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then upstage 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
It's 3 by 5.
It's 3 by 5. Yeah.
And are those 8-foot areas?
Excuse me?
Are those 8-foot areas or what?
I think, yeah, I think they're close to 8-foot areas, but there's, of course, a lot of overlap.
Mhm.
So it's, I couldn't really say, to tell you honestly. It's the number of areas we need to light the place effectively, but I can't say that each area, if you brought up one of them on their own, yeah, I would imagine it's about 7 or 8 feet in diameter. But of course, the light's coming from the front, so it's, at least with acting light, so it's an oval, not a round. So
So there's 10.
there is actually 15.
15.
So downstage right on the front of the stage is area 1, and then going across the stage, 2, 3 is in the center, 4 is at mid-stage left, 5 is at stage left, downstage left, and then 6 is in the middle of the stage. 7 would be what we call that mid-stage left, mid-stage right center, and mid-stage center, or as it's usually called in dance, center. Mid-stage left center, mid-stage.
Wait, can we go back to the top? I'm still not following this.
Okay, so this is we're downstage. You see the stage, can you see the?
Yeah.
So this is the audience,
Yeah,
this is the stage.
okay.
So downstage right here in this corner.
Okay, so not the first line, because that's.
Yeah,
that's
so
apron, the
there are
left.
lots of lines on there that.
Or like here.
Lines don't have much. And basically, yeah, it's easier if you just look at this as a stage. Don't think about the light. So it's 1.
Because there's groupings.
This, what it is an area that we're focusing on.
They're not coming from the grid of the stage.
Right now, this has nothing to do with the light. This just has to do with breaking up the stage into a certain number of focus areas.
Okay, so focus area of 1.
Exactly. And then it's 2, 3, 4.
Where's 3?
3 is downstage center. Mhm. And then at mid stage, you start with 6. 6. 8 would be center. 10. And then upstage, 11. and 15. So every theater, every designer divides the stage into their own acting areas. This is not where you're going to, what you find, I imagine, at the Opera House. There are 36 acting areas or more. You know, the bigger the stage, the more acting areas there are. But it guides you where to focus the light. And also, if somebody is trying to recreate your lighting designer, say you are on tour, and you send a light plot to some venue across the country, they need to know where to focus the light. So you tell them, focus in area 1. The purpose of these lights is area 1. Okay. So that's all we're going to talk about in terms of focus. There are all sorts of other things about focus palettes, but that's too complicated right now. So with theater, we use 15 areas, both for the dance concert and for the theatrical events. Okay, so to make, when you're assigning channels, you want it to be as intuitive as possible. As a designer, you want to be able to know quickly which lights are hitting which area, so you don't have to keep coming back and referring to your paperwork over and over because you're working way quicker than that, as you guys know from tech rehearsals or doing second tech rehearsals. But basically, by doing what we're about to talk about, it's very easy. After about 3 or 4 hours, I no longer need my paperwork because it's intuitive and you memorize. So okay, there are two different ways of looking at it, one from the standpoint of the dancers and one from the standpoint from the theater. So in the theater, area 1 becomes channel 1. And those are lights coming from the front. They're acting lights that are coming from the front to light the face. And so the reason in theater you normally start with area 1 being channel 1 is you have to light people's faces when you put on plays. So when we get to the plot, you'll see, okay, these lights back here are the lights that light area 1. So these get assigned channel 1. If we just did one by one by circuits, it would be a mess. You would never be able to memorize it. So that's the way it is in theater, and I'll come back and explain a little bit more. In dance, because dance is about the body, usually channel 1 is the downstage right lowest shin. So the whole reason, I think the thing that makes this work is the reference is that number 1, whether you're doing theater or dance, is the downstage right area. So, for instance, okay, so I'm designing a show, so my first 15 areas are channels 1 through 15. I take a certain number of instruments. Okay, then the next system I'm going to switch to is down lights. So I've used channels 1 through 15. Now I want to do the down lights. So downstage right becomes channel 21. Not channel 16, but channel 21, because this is 1. This is where our reference point is. And anybody can help me try to explain this, because it's a little confusing.
So when you have 15 areas.
Excuse me, John?
So are you drawing on the board? Because I don't know that I can see it, but when you have 15 areas, your front light would be 1 through 15?
Exactly.
And then your next system of either color or angle would be 21 through 35.
Right, exactly. And then your next system would start with 31 or 71 or whatever, but you always know that light's downstage right. Okay.
Wait, and so channel 1 is downstage right, the shin?
For dancers, yes.
And 21, channel 21 is going to be in the area 1. Wait, where's the other 20 channels?
So, so let me explain the lights for dancers. So downstage right, lowest shin is 1. Now, the thing is that's confusing and why this doesn't necessarily work as well for dancers is dancers don't divide up their lights 1, 2, 3, 4. They break up their lights 1, 2, 3, 4, because you're dealing with the light coming from the side. So the downstage right shin is 1. The mid stage. Well, you know what? I'm sorry, this is too confusing for the dance students. So forget about the 15 areas for dance, because you actually have more booms than that. We have 4 booms in the theater. I guess all I can say for dance is that if you start assigning channels with downstage right, whether it be an acting light or a downstage right channel, is if you assign that to area 1, you can always start your systems with 21 or 51 or 101, and you know that's going to be that light. So you guys are actually on your plot. You'll notice that you're down at the bottom. You have all your light trees and they're empty because part of your job is to assign the lighting instruments and the channels to those. But yeah, Desmond.
If I could mention in it, that you would go like across all of the lotions, downstage, upstage, and then back to like the mid.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah,
in
you would focus
dance.
all of your
In
lotions.
dance, it's 1,
5, 6,
2,
7,
3,
8,
4.
9, 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Like that, all, yeah.
And then, I'm not sure, it can be, the way I would do it, and I can't remember how it's done here, would be 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
As the mids,
That's the,
or the
well,
second
whatever it
level
is, the second shin, however you design the
going
light.
up to the.
And then the next one would be 21. So you always know
But each light has its own channel.
exactly. In this case, I mean, that's not true for every light plot, but in
For
the
those,
case of
yes.
our lighting systems from the side lights, yes, each light has its own channel.
You want to focus on the main, like if I put in 1 through 8, I'm gonna get all of the lotions. And then 11 through
Right.
19 are gonna be the next ones.
And the reason we do that is because dancers are dealing with sculpting the body, and so it's all about all of the lights coming from one side of the stage, and then all the lights coming from the other side of the stage. In theater, it deals much more with planes, with lights coming from the front. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In dance, 1, 2, 3, 4, or how many booms you have on that side of the stage. But you're still, when you come back to your starting point, you start with a number that starts with 1.
But like in ballet, we totally use fairy light.
Yeah.
Ballet uses front light.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but the reason we do it differently here is because in theater, because plays are about talking and we need to see people's faces, the area lights become the most important light. In dance, it's all about the body. So the most important light is not the light coming from here, it's the light that's lighting the side of your body. So I know this is kind of a complicated concept. Are you guys grasping it at all? Yeah.
So when it comes to acting the single numbers, would it then be 215? Because then you get to the double digits. I just wanted to clarify the numbers there.
It depends on how many, so we have 15
Yeah.
acting areas,
I
so,
get the
so this would be 1
21.
through 15.
Yeah,
So when you start again, say whether it's the down level be 21.
Yeah. but when you get to like 10 and 11, is it just 10 then?
It can be, depends. By that point, you may not have systems. By that point, you may be
Okay.
into specials,
Okay.
which are basically have their own designation. And you do need to keep referring to your paper for specials. There's no really intuitive way to do that, though every designer is going to have their own system.
Wait, so how do we get back to a 1? Do we just skip? Like,
Yes.
I just did all my booms and I got up to 32. So 33 would be, what is there now 33?
So you actually, if you did all your booms.
Yeah.
Yes, you got up to,
It would be.
no,
Well,
it's,
if I had.
no,
if
it's
I-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you're starting at 11. 11, 12, 13, 14. Your downstage right, you always want to be with the number 1. So what you did was just continue the number.
Well, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the other side I did 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right, and then you come back to the side for the next 5 shins.
Yeah.
You start at 11. And it's 11, 12.
So that your downstage boom has all started with 1.
all starts with one.
all has the one in it. So it's 1, 11, 21, 31. And then if you're gonna do
So
an
your
extra.
actual next free system would start with 40.
Matthew,
I'm sorry, yes, yes, 40.
for the show, are you doing the extra high? I don't even recall that.
Yes.
That's it. The extra really, we're putting the extensions on the.
We're putting extensions on the booms and I am naming them low shin, high shin, head high, and top.
Yeah, because the
Because
mids are where we normally have.
The mid light is the light that to me is
It's not a mid.
must be, so it's gonna be 18 inches and whatever, like 2.5 feet, whatever that's standing in there. And the next. And then the next one.
But stage left, the shin starts at 5? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then that will be, the next one here will be 15. That's just the onesies,
So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4,
and your mid is more.
5, 6, 7, 8. And then there's the next one.
I have 11, 12, 13, 14, so
Right.
then 15.
Right.
Okay. I didn't want it. Extra like that.
So while everybody's still working on it, instead of my doing 2 light plots, 1 for theater and 1 for dance, this plot is set up as a dance plot. So you will notice, if you come over to your hookup, that area 1 does not start at 1, it starts at 81, which is where it starts on this particular one. And it's still starting at 1. It's just that's like an importance in terms of the lights you're using, that's 4th or 5th most important.
So when we do our hookups for our final project, starting the video?
I think it's gonna be easier for you just to use this. So basically, what's on here, all I'm asking you to do is to do the colors.
Right.
In terms of the booms, you may or may not use them. For the dancers, they're most likely all going to use all of them. And you know that we'll use them. Moonwalks, Alan's using them, whatever the name of the place you're doing. And, you know, if a theater designer can cram them in there and there are no walls blocking the light, then they probably will do that because they want to sculpt the body as much as they can.
So then that means for this, all we have to do is like, just fill out the colors.
In this case, it's just the colors. But then we have to start getting to your particular play. So you want any specials, you want other kinds of systems. This, we'll catch up.
Okay, right.
So instead of doing 2 different versions, we're basically just using the dance version. And I think it's just as well for you to learn. You're still starting with 1 being dance stage right. Okay, so the dancers know where their light is hung for downstage right. Area 1 is the downstage right low shins. So your downstage right acting area is 81, right? It's not written on there, but it's on there. It's 81? Okay. So you're lighting faces. So where's the light coming from? Yeah, it's coming from the front. So here's 81. I'm not sure which, I asked Danielle to take the channels off of here just to kind of test you guys. You got it on the hookup, so you can go back and write it in. So here's, John, I don't know if it'll help for me. I don't know if you can even see this.
Somewhat.
So here's downstage, right, area 81, and we have 2 lights lighting it. And they're here on the 3rd beam, there's 1 here and 1 here. And they're not, as I say, the channel's not on there, the number you see in there is the circuit number.
I see.
So you may want to go ahead and write it on there. It's,
Is that supposed to be the channel?
Oh, yeah, that is the channel.
But that says 82.
So that's where, that is right, that's where 82 is. So in theater, when you're like using lighting active faces, acting area lights, ideally the lights 45 degrees this way and 45 degrees this way. And that is impossible in our theater because that requires the audience to be way wider than the stage at different angle. So we basically squeeze them in together as much as we can. But we still want 2 lights lighting each area because it adds sculptural quality to the face. Even though in our theater they have to be ganged together, and so that means they come up together. If you put different colors in them, so you bring up channel 81, you could put light blue on one side and a light lavender on the other one, and they have to come up together because they're plugged together and soft patched together in channel 81. But you're still going to get a sculptural quality because you're mixing pale lavender and gel.
So on this plot, if you're trying to light area 2, would you have to bring up channels 80? Well, that says 82, but
Right.
81 and this here, or would you? Because the way this is set up, I think it's different.
So if you're lighting channel 82, you just bring up channel 82.
Oh, okay. So,
And it's done this way because, as I say, it's all squeezed on there. I
yeah,
think it's a little more realistic when you get down. What does that say?
that's 86.
So so if you look at starting at 86, that's a lot more realistic.
Right,
86 lights here,
right.
and then it moves on. And they're trying to squeeze in the widest angle possible so we get more sculptural quality.
So the third
Oh, so
beat
then
is a
this-
little off, is what you're
It's
saying.
much shorter.
Okay, so then, this here, it starts at 82 and not 81.
Right.
So area 1 would be the channel 82.
No, still look like 81.
Still 81, so that's just, that is patched into 81.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
I see, so that single light is 81 and
Right.
this one's 82.
So it's not the light that necessarily lines up this way. with the
Right,
light.
it's.
What we're trying to do is actually the lights lighting this
this
way.
one.
It doesn't work so well with here, so sometimes you have to do it.
Okay,
I mean, we do that here because if we put it here, it spills all over the ceiling and all.
right.
So we basically
Oh.
jerry-rig this
I
system.
thought
Okay, so.
Okay, I couldn't find it for the longest time.
But so then, does that mean that these two, I know that these two are
No,
together?
no, no, so 81 is the circle right
These
there.
two
The
are-
circle is,
see
the
where
circle is
it
like
is?
here are channels. So 81 is this light right here, which is lighting this area. 82, channel 82 is this area.
Oh, no, that is
lighting here.
This is actually channel
83 is like here. So
The
it
first
is correlating, it's just
No, that's
80,
not.
81
Actually,
and
this is
85 are one.
It just has to do with that.
Yeah, I know, I just.
Because we have to do so much jerry-rigging.
Yeah.
Let's look at the middle of the stage, starting at 86.
86 is back here, so, okay.
So I've got
So then that
86,
corresponds to 6.
and then I've got 87.
Well, that makes sense, they all match up.
So the second
Oh, so that
beam,
means that 81 would go to here, 82
Right.
would go to
Yeah.
here.
But it's not like, I think the way these are lined up has nothing to do with varies across
right,
here.
it just happens that 81 is hitting here, but 82, there's 2 lights hitting here. They're focused to hit area 2.
I see.
So, but yeah, so like
83 would be hitting 80, would
Right.
Oh.
So that, so we assign the channel number 83 because that's,
Right, that makes sense, okay. I get you.
well, my time was long.
so are people understanding at least the first part of this system? We haven't gone on to, and why we pick numbers that way?
I like that one, yeah. I kind of bring like.
How does the East Coast do it differently?
What?
How does the East Coast do it differently?
Well, I've heard that it actually starts downstage left.
Okay, yeah, that's how I
What do you
start.
do in your,
I've always
You
counted
start downstage?
downstage left, yeah.
So John, who lives near Baltimore, their area one is downstage left. That's the difference between the East Coast and West Coast.
So your area one is downstage left?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's just the entrance?
So it's split.
So that's.
So just to throw even more confusion at you. Okay. So for right now, there's a number in the middle of each instrument. We disregard that. Okay. And there's also the, what's in the hexagonal line. Let's leave that alone for a second. And each lighting instrument is going to have the channel number, the circuit number, the unit number, and the color number. To start with, it can have a whole lot more than that.
So like right above, there's like little numbers, so like L2, that's the color.
That's the color of that light.
Wow. This is so cool.
And what's in the hexagon is actually the circuit number. So because the circuits up here, the circuits on the 13 are 1 through 8. So when they build the theater, any theater that can put electricity in, they put all the circuits in. So they're just going 1 through, all the way our theater goes to 96. So it's like 1 through 8. Some of these will have different number of circuits on them, but they could care less about, setting it up as a works for stage lighting. They're just doing what makes sense.
But we know it.
Right.
Gotcha.
But that's why the circuit numbers here are so low, because in this theater, circuit 1 is on 13. Circuit 96, I believe, is the
Well, circuit number 1 is over here. Or not circuit number, yes.
So just to throw, so the other number you're looking at is the unit number. That's the number in the middle of it. That happens to what number it is along the plate. And that always starts from the right. It starts from the right.
Professor,
Okay.
how long did it take you to learn all of this?
Yeah.
5 years or?
Long time.
Oh, there is a key.
Wow. Well, there we go. There's a key.
Oh my gosh.
I thought you guys saw that.
There's a key.
No. That's the one that
Okay, so how's everybody doing on understanding the numbering system? We've only talked about channels so far. So Julia, are you understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. So on your hookup, I just, instead of separating each one of the lights, I just grouped them together. So you have areas 1 through 5. Areas 1 through 5, that's the purpose, what it's showing you. The location where the instrument is hanging, what kind of lighting instrument it is. The channel number.
These are other channels.
The circuit number, which I just put a sign because I'm not going to have you assign because it's another complicated. You start assigning circuits. And then what the purpose is. This is the exact same purpose. So for the theater student, for those people who are not using Vectorworks, all I'm asking you to do for your final project is turn this in. This. The reason I gave you this is because it's a lot easier to visualize when you're looking at the stage and the lighting instruments about where you want to hang your instrument. So even though I work on Vectorworks online, I do it through that software, I often blow up and I ask Becca to make these as big as possible so it makes it less messy when you do that. I use colored erasable pencils are your best friend, and so I basically pick, okay, my acting lights are going to be red, and then I put them along here, and then I come back and put my down lights in blue. But this way you're visualizing, you're looking at the set, and I think you guys all as actors and stage managers and directors can understand, lighting the stage. So, you're more than welcome to do this without this, but I think it's fantastic. But just know that it is the exact same thing in a different format. So Jenny, how are you doing? And that's the exact same thing as so right? Right.
And we'll be together and do
Which version day?
That's why you have to be on it.
Oh, I'm working April 7th too.
So these are channel 82, I'll focus on the range. I mean, normally, if you have a class that you have time.
We are, yeah.
But because
Morning, because I think I have to see a show for, you know, all the times yet. Melissa, I'm pretty sure it's in the second.
This is small. Yeah.
And I wrote down, I realized, she put it up for this folks.
and this one's not.
Oh, this is just, it doesn't.
Okay, so.
I realized.
It's
But I
just
was
a
feeling like,
Right.
So let me just, while you're looking at this stuff,
I'm still confused.
so the reason we put unit numbers on this is because there's a light plot and there's a hookup which the lighting designer uses, and then there's an instrument schedule, which is what the electrician uses, and that's where unit numbers come in. So you send an electrician upstairs on the blank thing, and they want to hang the height, 1, 2, 3, they could care less about channel, and they just want to hang it. So the instrument schedule lists things like lighting position. But we are not doing instrument schedules, but that's the reason why there is a unit number in there. And I'm not going to talk about circuiting for right now. So how is, Jesse, how are you doing?
Yeah.
With the numbers starting.
Yeah.
So this is area 1. This is 7. So again, we make channel 1. So whoever designed this design. So 81 is like 86 is like here. So those n numbers are referring to areas. So are you guys feeling enough so we can go on? And we will keep doing this over and over again, but you know, you're probably going to have to study it a little bit between classes. So just to let you know, again, what I'm asking you to do for your final projects, we're giving you all this, and the reason it's not really like, because well, we do want to make it easier, but it's also because we use a rep plot or a house plot in this theater, and a lot of theaters do. So I basically gave you those instruments. They can be moved, but we're not moving them. Alan has to move every single one of them because they're seemingly covering every bit of light or whatever. But there's still a lot to do other than assigning the colors here. Okay. I take this away. Okay, so I'm going to go on. So coming back, so the first system in here is actually As I say, this is dance pot, so the first system in here is actually these lights starting here, 1, 2, 3. So it's not necessarily. So, okay, so then we have these downlight scrollers. We have 15 areas, and there are 15 downlight scrollers, and they're each on their own circuit, which means they can all each be at whatever level you want anytime. So on this plot, downstage right is channel 41. Still coming back to 1. 41, because it's a downlight, it's now above you, not in front of you. Are you guys understanding the difference between the downlight and the front light?
What?
A downlight is the light that shines down, like
Okay, so
something
that's
above your head.
okay.
Right on top of your head.
And ideally, we would use backlights because the stage isn't big enough to have backlights over your head. Okay, so that basically is repeating. You have your 15 areas, and you have your 15 downlights, and they start at 41, and they end at 55. Yeah, Tracy.
Why would you prefer backwards to downward?
Excuse me?
Why would you prefer backwards to downward?
I just like the way it separates particularly dancers from their background, or the way it's hitting. Downlight can push people down this way. I mean, ideally, you'd have both. Yeah. But this look to me is a lot more sculptural. Like, if you look at a picture just the downlight, there's this little pool of light around here. There's practically no shadow. The shadow's like the shoulder. When it's a backlight, you're lighting up all of this, which is, for a dancer, most times much more dramatic than.
You can see more of the body when you do it
Yeah,
backwards
exactly.
than rather than the down pool.
In dance lighting, we're trying to light the body in as many different directions as possible.
You also kind of use in a design, use down and or backwards, like.
It can be, it will light the floor. You know, the only lights that don't light the floor are shit.
Right.
Everything else is.
They're kind of more direct.
To light the floor?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could say you could have front watches then. I mean, they all light the floor from different directions. So if the purpose, I mean, you really have to take into account what it's doing to the floor. But when I'm designing the show, I've never actually said, okay, one of my systems is a floor. What color lights do I need for?
But I mean, I guess if you wanted to think about it that way, you could use the scrollers for that, because there's multiple colors.
Right. But you have to do with everything that's between the light and.
Well, yeah. People on fish. Yeah.
Okay, so
Why
You
does
got-
31, why isn't 7341?
What?
Why isn't it stuck there
Because
and on
the
there?
scrollers are different.
Oh. Oh, okay.
the light that's lighting in is directly over the area,
And then we,
or as close as we can do in this video. Area 1, downlight, oh, this is 41. We haven't got to that.
It's a different one.
That's it, it's
Yeah,
down.
it's,
So just so you know, these lights have scrollers in them. Scrollers is a kind of way of allowing you to use different colors in the same lighting instrument. It is, at this point, very old-fashioned, and in 5 years, no theaters will have any of them, because the light color will all be changed to LEDs. But we still have them, and there's 16 different colors in there. They're actually pieces of gel on rollers, and on the computer, you just blur it. And we have a list of colors. So. Is it not on there sometimes? Is there a list of scroller colors on here? And don't look at old light plots because we just changed the scroller colors.
I don't see the list.
Excuse me?
I don't see the list of scroller color.
Yeah, I'll have to send it to you. We just changed them because before they weren't custom, and we just got custom colors that are, yeah, the scroller colors that are much more usable. Like the old ones had like 6 different colors of amber. We now have 6 different colors of blue. So.
That's all right. Do you know what,
It's 60?
no, 60s. I was just curious.
16 or 60?
60s, 60.
Oh, I don't know. That's,
The her question.
yeah. Like when I'm lighting a show and I'm, as a theater designer, and I'm starting with 1 with the acting light, that'd be 1 through 15. And my downlight, it would be 21 through 35. And I would start at 41. So it's that number 1 that's important. Okay. So are you guys feeling okay to move on? Really, this is really the time to ask questions. So actually, I'm not sure we'll get this today, but next week, what I want you to do is you'll come in and say, well, I want it to look this way, or I want it to look moody and like film noir, which directors always say to lighting designers. Make it look film noir, which just means a lot of shadows. And then we're gonna, together, try putting those instruments on the plot.
So this is something that we're all going to be doing, assigning channels and areas.
Right, except the ones that I've already, these are all done for you.
Okay.
But the reason I left the booms blank is because I wanted you as dancers, as choreographers, to make a decision what angle you wanted the light. I mean, Danielle has 2 shins, a 4'6", I think, and a 7'. And I'm switching to 2 shins, a 6' and a 12'. And you can't go any higher because our lighting trees don't get any higher than that. But that's up to you. And I just did that because, to me, this is a lot more interesting angle on the body than one that's coming in straight on this way. Because to me, there's so much more movement up here. But that's totally a personal choice. So let me continue with the systems, and these systems are pretty common in the theater. So to tell you honestly, I'm not exactly sure why these things are listed. Forget about the way they're listed on the sheet, because there's no rhyme or reason in which we're now going to switch from 55 to 181. So 181 and 182 are front washers. And so you have one channel is bringing up all the lights that are in that system, which is four lights, 1,000 watts each. And they are on the 3rd beam. And they are just a wash of the stage and are very difficult to use because they hit halfway up the site and they don't have shutters on them. And ours are impossible to focus. It's too dangerous to focus them, so you can't even change the barn doors. I have fair use. So we have a warm, and we just switched that color to a much lighter amber or rose. 305 and 80, which is a medium blue. Okay. Then I'm going to skip over the site for a second. Can you go down to what says high sides? Okay. So this is another little twist of the system. Okay, so 71, we still wanted to hit area 1. it's a high side, so it's actually, right, I'm standing here in area 1. The lights, the high side, it's right, that's where the instrument's hanging. So number 1 is actually kind of in the middle of the pipe. And then when I come here, there's 72, and it's coming the end of that pipe. And then when I come here, we actually, because we don't have enough equipment in our theater, 73 is coming this way, but I'm still in area 3. And then we don't have 5 of them, there's only 4 in the system, just because of our equipment. So ideally, high sides would have the same thing. There would be 2 high sides for each area. It'd be nice to have 30 high side lights in this theater. And those are LED lights, so they can be any color. With you just select the color on the computer. So when you're actually picking colors for these, you don't actually pick the color until you get to your cue, and then in a certain cue, you're going to say, I want the high sides to be this certain color. For right now, just pick a Roscoe color, because it's just easier to start with everybody using Roscoe. So you can just that. But you don't, it's not one color, because it's like the scrollers, because in each cue, the light can be a number of different colors.
Matthew, I want Lean 201.
What?
But I want Lean 201.
Yeah. I use that color all the time. And
It's probably like one of your top 5.
and I just noticed Alan used the same color in his front light. No, he used 202. His lights are you'll see a totally different lighting design style. He has tons of amber in his light, which I'm very wary of amber. A lot of you know.
I think he did for Iron Sheet.
Yeah. I mean, as you get to be growing as a lighting designer, you'll start leaning in different areas, and it's your job to pull yourself away from the colors that you get addicted to over time and spread your wings so that you eventually know all of the 2,000 plus colors that you can choose from. And it may sound crazy now that there's so many different colors of blue, but even designing lights for 2 years, you will know why one blue works and the other one doesn't. This color does not say that to me. It says sadness as opposed to the sky. That's why there's so many colors. Okay, so everybody saw where the high sides were on the plot. Are these weird looking instruments? Okay, so the next lights on the hookup are the lights that light the site. There's three across the top. It's not 3 lights, it's actually 11 light fixtures. But we have them plugged into 3 channels. And they generally work as one color, but they can be 3 colors because it's a 3 channel. That would be kind of a weird looking. So you've got, those are 121 through 123 hanging along the top, and 124 through 126 hanging along the bottom, lighting the site from the bottom. They have nothing to do with area 1. At this point, we've kind of done everything in relation to area 1, so we're moving on to other things. So any questions? Are you digesting this at all? Trying to think. Well, let me just show you, because we have them on the plot, but they are not on that hookup. Are these lights in, we call them box booms. Other designers coming into this theater go, what? It doesn't really have a name, but it's closest to box boom. They're extremely difficult to focus, as you all know. Anyway, when these lights are focused on the stage, you're getting a light going in this way. It can be extremely effective. And if you're doing ballet, there's almost always a diagonal light system from the front as well as from the back, because so much of the dance movement moves on the diagonal, classical ballet.
But Danielle just didn't use them, so she didn't assign a channel, right?
Yeah, well,
They don't.
they've been assigned circuits, so you can assign channels to them if you want to use them. They're each separate. You bring them up each on their own, so you could use 20. Do we skip 21?
We skipped the whole 60s, so we can use the 60s.
Yeah, use the 60s. So there are 12 of them, so you can make 61. To me, instead of going in this case, to me, it's easier to go 61, 62, 63 around this way and this way. That's always the hardest thing for me to memorize.
Starting with
12
SR box 1, that's actually.
Exactly, the one closest to the stage. It's totally up to you, and they also can be any color. But just know it's a light coming from a high diagonal. Just so you know, in our light plot, we have lights hanging on the back. When you go up the aisle, the wall that's at the end of the aisle, there are lights hanging there because there's often action in the aisle, so we need lights there. That's what this little box is, aisle lights. As I say, most of this we just leave there all the time. But you may want to use them if you ask somebody to come into the audience, like they did in Jesus or in Puss in Boots. We use those lights a lot. We are not going, these lights here in green, the moving lights, we are not using this. It's next year's class. Same with these IQs, which are these lights in the middle, the second beam with these weird things. We're not going to get into moving lights right now, except for scrollers, which are a version of a moving light. I'm going to have a sip of water, and you guys, if you can just go back and, really, if you have questions, really, this is the time to ask. And we can do it privately as well. Don't be embarrassed. It's a lot. It's confusing. It'll eventually become really simple. It's as confusing to me as if somebody told me to do a certain dance step.
Professor, will we be in the theater when we do our lab items, right? Or do we meet in the office first? Or?
Oh no, we need in the theater in work clothes. Yeah, you're going to be hanging and focusing lights. Okay, let me just go over the different numbers because I just talked about that to people who are sitting down here. Just for your reference, if you look at, let's go to the Apron Electric. First instrument, it's downstage left. Now, first of all, you see that all the instruments across the Apron Electric are a unit number, and that's the number that's in the middle of the instrument. So it goes 1, 2, 3 to however many instruments you can have, and those of you use Vectorworks, it automatically renumbers, which is in hand drafting, you had to erase every time you added an instrument, had to erase every one of those. So that's the number in the middle, and they have numbers because the electricians need that when they're hanging and focusing the show. And then you have the channel number in a circle, and you have The dimmer or circuit number theater with a kind of interchangeable in a hexagon. And then if you look over at number 2, there's another number above it, that's the color. And if you look down at the bottom of your light plot, there's a key in the downstage right corner to the bottom left. It tells you what each one of those numbers are. It's down, yeah, it's in that big key box. So actually, while we're there, what you're looking at is the key telling you what the numbers are in each instrument. And then next to that has a list of all the different kinds of instruments that we have in this theater that can be used. Okay, so I think if we go on to the next step, it's going to be, I think people, their heads. But the next thing is you're going to have your concept and you're going to come and say, this is what I want. What lighting instrument do I use? Where do I put it? Because you're not just lighting the show with down lights and front lights and side lights. You've got to light your scenery, you've got all your specials, you know, for whatever reason. You have to get color.
It's like, we'll do audio, like, none of you guys had that class, right? Yeah, that's right, you were there. I was like, who else
So,
was there? None of you, we didn't.
do you guys, any of you have questions about the light lab project?
We had to go watch them.
I know, because,
Sure. You have to be able to move it.
She's the one that told me.
I mean, if that was-
great, like,
Literally the last
because I
second.
work on these.
It was so.
Like, in my basis, if I want to alter things. I just.
It was like somewhat decent, and then it was like 2 hours, and it wasn't, it didn't need to be that long.
I feel like it was not, I did a whole semester for
Yeah, and white balls.
watch, have the option to watch the sound. I made a furniture sculpture.
You could flip it to the cake, like him moving, like, it wasn't too much, it was him moving a lot.
Okay, so any more questions? Okay, we will go over this again next week and then we will start plotting your plots.
Yeah. So then would I it says about like,
Yeah.
like moves. So like what I want.
So there's, you can use a projector, but there are also all kinds of lights where, when we go by the fan. There's some that have like chip lasers, turning in different directions and things because you don't want, I know exactly.
And so then would I have to add that?
Yeah, no, I just want to figure it out. We're not gonna use, we're not gonna use these. And just put,
Yeah, the only thing is that like there's logistically, like it should be, the light should be from here going out to the side.
second.
Okay, so then.
It's not gonna hit everybody in one.
Yeah. At least you'll make
Well, you could actually do it on the theater. and This would
And
get
then make sure the
closer
label, you know.
to the good.
And then.
This may actually be better.
Yeah.
So, because you wanted to hit the whole audience.
I mean, because it's supposed to be like, as if it's coming from like, it's supposed to be like. So then, when it will feel still, if it's coming out, the apron lines, like.
So what you would do is you would so the lenses, particular bigger lenses, and they cover a lot of area.
Yeah.
So you, on this top, you just go to 50, which you cover for the room. Because you want a whole area. And then. There are all different kinds of effects you can do. Or.
Yeah.
But a different way of wording.
But she said I knew you were.
Yeah, and I was trying to talk about the electrical load.
I blame 45.
Our 105.
I didn't report our end of our end.
The only other thing you may, you've been very specific here, if there are things that you think that move or a particular line that speaks to the way what's going on in the stage, you might want to.
Okay.
No, that's exactly it.
Okay, awesome.
So you just have another. Well, you have it under notes.
I'm not the person to talk to.
You want to make. Oh, no, you got it here. Offer this.
Okay, cool.
So,
Overwhelmed with every stuff. I think
you do not, because you don't have to, but you do not. You need to look at the close-up view of it.
Okay.
I think if you do the first pass, you'll have enough of the lights. Just because it's in a movie theater from one set.
Yeah. Okay, that is.
I mean, maybe when you get the second act, you know, cover that for maybe a special.
Okay, cool. So I guess just give us a little, like, at least the first time done, and then I can watch something else if I have time.
Right.
Okay.
And you probably need to read the whole of the concept.
Yeah.
And the theme.
I was like, I just talked about my content, which is like, I've done some more research on it, and I wanted it to like convey the like, arguments that they do in technique and I found like an article about like skills she was inspired by, and I found there's a song of it, that's just like this woman, this like movie, and her face changes from like being like having like liver. So I was thinking about that.
So the movies actually put some up.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So I know I first
All of you guys.
Oh, like my papers out there more, but I started writing.
Yeah, I was like, maybe calling one. Are you
So
still?
do you think-
Can I sign up now?
And I also, just kind of, I'm gonna draw one. As far as I know,
Yes, on the weekend next, it's our space from 8 to 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah, I just added,
Monday around, so it's been a lot in the last couple days of the
what?
I can start at 1.
Yeah,
I'll just do that and then I'll have it done.
That's fine.
It's just us four. What?
Is this?
Yeah, I think we need to do it because there's so many-
You're also making a piece. I don't have to worry about it.
That's
To make sure people's
pieces
pieces get put up.
Are we, Matthew, are we still walking over to our other class now? As well, we're talking about the like. Pieces like. And also do Sunday, all that time. Like,
I'm probably just gonna carpool with Danielle every day. So you'll get me for extra hours.
Thank you.
I will get my 10 hours done.
Monday, I it's 12:45.
Okay.
And then I think it's 3 to 6 on Tuesday.
Oh, that Tuesday morning time thing.
At 9:30?
Yes, I think we have 9 to 9:45.
Okay.
But I have a class coming at 9:45 to start 4.
Okay.
I think it was on the original
Then
schedule.
Tuesday, the 3 to 6.
I just wanna
And
keep-
it makes my.
I can do Monday, 9 to 3:45.
Okay.
And Tuesday, 2 to 6. That would be,
That's
and Sunday I teach the little kids.
probably the theater students who are doing the strike.
I was gonna say, if
Their
it's,
score.
well, by next week, when we get the rest of them. I'm a little more flexible on Monday if I need to change those hours.
This looks right, if you can do that, that's, because you, one person signed up.
For what slot?
Monday morning.
No, that's me.
Oh, you,
Okay, time to go to cash. But yeah, I have nothing else that week except that show, so. I'm available. Thanks, Tony. See you.
I will continue to speak to you.
Yeah, well, the,
Everybody's.
thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
it's the only.
I didn't know that the West Coast counted the other way, the wrong way. Yeah. It's interesting.
That is it. So I think in Tuesday, like, Wednesday.
See you later.
Yeah.